so just because I say something is probably pretty good today, we may learn that it has some other effects, but that's why I'm not saying it's a superfood either. We talked about fat fueling our basal metabolism. And fat is really, really critical to our overall health. And low-fat diets and very low-fat diets have been promoted for the recent 2 or 3 decades to support a healthy diet. It was really low-fat diets was the key to health. Well, when you're very low in fat, you lose a lot of vital vitamins and minerals that are only dissolvable in fat. And so when we do that, we actually lose a whole subset of really important things to help our body function. These vitamins and minerals are essentially cofactors. They're involved in all the reactions in our body. And when they're not there, our body stops doing these reactions, like building bone and creating an immune system and fighting inflammation. So we need fat, and we especially want plant sources of fat. The last thing that fat is really critical for is fat takes longer to absorb and to digest. It takes up to 5 hours to digest fat. Fiber as well. Fiber is slow to digest as well. But carbs and protein, you digest and absorb them in about 2 hours. So if you're eating very low fat, you're going to get over hungry, over full. And so fat is also a really good thing to help blend your appetite and to maintain some balance between meals and snacks. Some good anti-inflammatory sources. We're thinking our oils. Olive oil, we know, is a really positive one. Whole grains, and I talked about the fiber and the starch within the grains. There's also the germ, and the germ is where the nutrients are. The vitamin A, the vitamin E, a lot of the micronutrients that are found in that starch molecule, the grain molecule, are actually in the germ. Eggs are actually very high in omega-3.
Is that the yolk or the white?
Let's think about based on the color.
Yeah.
The white really is protein only. And so the yolk, if we eat a lot of egg whites, we're missing out on all the nutrients.
Yeah, but I don't like eggs.
That's a challenge. And so eating for pleasure should have been on the first slide. Pleasure is really important. But the egg yolk is where all the nutrients are. Vegetables like avocados, oils, nuts and seeds. And then fish is a really great source of omega-3s. Omega-3s are critical for the entire body. Inflammation, brain health, they're very critical for that, immune system, etc.
Does it matter how anything is cooked?
Yeah, of course.
Well, so does that affect what's inside of it?
So, for the egg or for everything else?
Anything? Like
So-
for fish, if you're eating ceviche versus fried fish versus bread.
So I think the more fried, you're going to be getting denatured fatty acids. It's going to increase inflammation. That's a big process of frying. The fresher, the better. The closer to the source is what we're looking for. Dry cooking methods tend to preserve nutrients better. So grilling, stir frying, baking are dry cooking methods. The more water that's involved, you tend to lose nutrients and break down. That was a good question. Quantity. How much should you eat, right? That's an age-old question. And that's kind of a cop-out, right? You think should equal your expenditure. Now, body composition and weight loss is obviously something that I field a lot of questions about that. And it needs to be temporary and moderate if we're going to talk about weight management. And we'll get to that in just a second. So how much do you eat? Well, I like to keep it simple. Right? The KISS method. But the amount of each nutrient is really related to what our needs are. Fruits and vegetables, we know the importance there. We talked about that. Protein to maintain strength. And carbs, really we include as on demand. The more active we are, the more carbs we have. You should have them, period, in small amounts throughout the day. But carbs fuel activity. So when I work with my endurance athletes, carbohydrates are off the charts. When I work with athletes that are maybe more weight management focused, when I work with the wrestling team and they're training their weight down for a short period of time, carbs go back, but then when they get back in the competitive season, they go back up. And so carbs are really a function of the energy that your body needs, and then fats to really support inflammation and health. So we talk about plates. This is the peaceful plate. This is the general activity plate. If you're just a general college student walking around this huge campus, it's probably about what you need. And this is not one meal a day. It's not, oh, I got my carbs for the day, or I got my protein for the day, or my fruit and vegetable for the day. This is each meal, times 3. If you're stuck in your desk job, or when you graduate and you really just aren't active at all, or if weight management is something that is a priority for a short period of time, temporary and moderate is the key to weight management. Carbs tail back, protein takes over, and fruits and vegetables remain pretty high. Now, if you start training for a half marathon, or a 10K, or something else, it requires a lot of training. Not only do carbs go up, but fruits and vegetables, they remain, fruits, vegetables, protein, they kind of remain the same. They'll end up going up if you have more carbs as well. But as a function of the portion of the plate, your plate doubles or triples when you're training for your marathon. But it really is driven by the starches. Yep.
So you don't consider like a fruit to be a carb?
That's a good question. Nor do I consider non-starchy vegetables. I base it really on the fiber content and the fact that, and the nutrient content. So if you have a lot of if you have a lot of fruit and you're counting that towards your starch energy source, first of all, you're going to get too full to get enough starches, to get enough carbs. Secondly, it doesn't give you that sustained energy. It's going to give you energy for 3 to 4 hours. It's going to give you a quick energy source. It's really nutritious because it's got fiber, it's got water, it's got micronutrients, but it's not going to fuel your brain and your body for the day. So that's a really good question. So finding the right balance, again, determine your activity level, match to your appropriate plate, and then energy on demand. That's the term I like to talk about, energy on demand to fuel your activity. What about weight loss? That's a chronic issue in our society. I know on a college campus it also is something that is on a lot of people's minds. And this is my philosophy. And I base this both in my sports world, but also in my world of disordered eating and eating disorder, where I know that somewhere between 25 and 50% of college-aged females struggle with disordered eating. Healthy habits and behaviors lead to a healthy weight. And our perception, societally, is that if we get to a healthy weight, then that makes us healthy. And nothing could be further from the truth. Because we could do a lot of really, really terrible things to get to a perceived goal weight that sets us up for a lot of problems down the road, physically, physiologically, and mentally. Healthy behaviors and healthy habits lead to a healthy body weight and a healthy body. Weight loss diets are temporary and sustainable, and they actually oftentimes undermine our overall health. Let's just think about very simply, the note we've all heard, 3,500 calories equals a pound. Have we all heard that? I think it's pretty much part of popular knowledge base at this point. 3,500 equals a pound. There's new model that actually says that this is not true. And I think we could have picked up on that, right? If 3,500 calories equals a pound, and I have 500 calories in deficit a week, all year, I would lose 52 pounds. Does that seem realistic? It does not. And so what happens, and we can think about this logically, but the model actually indicates that the metabolism slows down if we're in calorie deficit. It's kind of that settling theory of weight, of body weight. If you underfuel, your body decreases metabolism, and you end up settling into about the same weight index. And so, if that happens, where did that metabolism go? If your metabolism is 200 calories lower than it used to be, what slowed down? First of all, it's burning energy to temperature regulation, right? We get cold all the time. Your immune system won't work as well. Your bones won't heal as well. Your brain won't work as well. Your muscles, when you train, they break down and they don't repair as well. And so we got to make sure that it's my perspective that we want to get our metabolism as high as it possibly can so that we can invest energy in all these really, really important things. That's why I don't count calories. Timing and consistency. And so I always spend about half my talk talking about what makes good food, et cetera, et cetera. And then I drop this bombshell. that part of the reason why we have to be so flexible with our food choices is because it's not half as important as when we eat. When we eat should be regular, should be scheduled, should be part of our daily routine. What we eat can be much more flexible. Our body can adapt to that. But it is not nearly as adaptable to big gaps in our food. I neglected to mention when I talked about purpose, and that really having purpose is what's going to drive us. And eating without purpose means that we are accidental eaters. And especially with student athletes, I see this a lot. They're focused on very specific things, and having a nutrition plan is not one of them. You guys are all here at this nutrition talk, so you probably have some purpose with why you eat. You're just trying to fine-tune things. But you think about what an accidental eater looks like. Wake up late, so you don't have time to eat before class. You go to class, you're rushed, you grab something very quickly. You do some more work, maybe a project, and then later at night, you're so extremely hungry at dinner that you end up eating more than you want. You snack all night, and then you wake up the next morning, and you're probably not hungry because you just ate late at night, and you feel really terrible about eating so much at night. And so then you eat less, and then it sparks that cycle. And that's what accidental eating is. So we want to focus on timing. Consistency within your days, between your days. So within day, that's like the time you wake up till the time you go to bed. Between days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then targeting your exercise. So we'll start with timing around exercise. We want to fuel every training session. Now, it's a little bit different if you're a competitive athlete versus a recreational athlete, but essentially we want to make sure we have energy on demand and energy to recover. Recovering into carbs and protein. If we're thinking about a recreational athlete, we just want to have a recovery snack. Every time we exercise, we want to have a snack. It's kind of as simple as that. If there's some carbs and protein, that's really great. But we want to make sure that we have something to recover from our training. And we want to have that psychological impact that, you know what, I exercised, my body needs energy, this is how I feel. What I try to help avoid is exercising to lose calories. Because that becomes part of the diet, and becomes part of the problem. Even if in weight management, even if there's weight management going on, which, as I'm trying to say, I think healthy behaviors leads to healthy weight, so I'm not a big fan of weight management. Dieting, the diet industry, I think is really making our society less healthy, but we need to make sure that we're fueling pre-post nonetheless. Competitive training, we want to match intake, so say you go from running a 5K to now training for a half marathon, and it really requires more competitive training, more focused training, where if you don't eat well, you're going to notice it for days, not hours. And if that's the case, you want to make sure that you're matching your actual expenditure to your actual intake. And that takes a little bit more focus and really trying to support with pre-post a little bit more specific. And in this case, performance trumps anything related to body composition. I've worked with a number of people, even friends, right? They come up to me and they say, Clint, I went from running 5Ks and I felt great, and really that was about fitness and improving lifestyle and getting back to be healthy, after they had kids and whatnot. But now I'm training for half marathons, and I'm zapped. If I have a long run, I'm zapped all week. And that's a function of really promoting their perceived body composition goals over performance. And when you start training competitively, that can't be the case, and performance needs to take priority. So when we talk about consistency, meals, right, that's our balanced plate, leaks. And that brings us to cheat days.
Yes, please.
No, thank you. So the perception of a cheat day means that we're restricting ourselves at other times. And my perspective is, I want to have flexibility every single meal. I had a piece of chocolate after my dinner tonight. I had a cookie when I left Open Shields at lunch. Right? I'm not saying you need to have a treat every meal or every day or every anything. That's my treats, whenever. But 80-20 is within a meal, within a day, within a week, whatever it means to you. But you need to have flexibility every single time you eat so that you don't have to have a cheat day. Because if you have a cheat day, it just means that you're choosing, you're kind of losing control of your decision making. And your decisions should are best suited to default to the most nutritious. But you should have flexibility not to have a cheat day, but to have chicken nuggets because they taste delicious sometimes. And that's okay. But that shouldn't be a cheat day where then you go eat the 20 piece because, screw it, I already messed up. And that's really what a cheat day is. It's a very unhealthy relationship to that decision-making process. And then our days. So within a day, this is how I like to talk about our needs. We have baseline energy needs, and this includes our basal metabolic rate, which is like if we just were in a coma all day, we still have needs. We still have caloric needs, and they're pretty significant. And about a third of them are for our brain. So our basal metabolic rate plus activities of daily living. So I relate these to just being a college student, right? Being here, being focused, and so engaged in this presentation, you burn tons of brain energy, and that's burning carbs, burning energy. Right? If you are really focused and you're studying and you're really engaged in this awesome presentation, you're burning twice as many calories as if you're just vegging out. Pretty cool. Your brain uses energy. And so a lot of these very simple models, well, they're not simple, but simplistic thinking models, like MyFitnessPal and a lot of the other ones, where it just says, I ran for 10 miles, or I did nothing. It's not a really good example. You guys are walking crazy amounts, you're focused, you're engaged, you're doing a lot of things, and that's your basal metabolic rate plus activities of daily living. I call that baseline. Now, if you're training, if you have an exercise, that's additional needs. And those total your total energy requirements, gross energy. Now, regular meals and snacks should fuel your baseline needs, and pre and post. Right, so especially if you're training for that half marathon, you're doing something really intense, then you want to add as much as possible of the energy consumed pre-post to that workout, and then you diffuse the rest after the day. But your baseline needs should be covered by meals and snacks. Our fundamentals here, fuel every 3 hours. Why every 3 hours? Any ideas? Metabolism is a key word that works. You can answer any question I ask with metabolism. So what else? I heard another answer. Yeah, you're digesting food. And so you no longer have food that's being utilized for your metabolism. And so if you no longer have external source of food, you start using internal sources of food, which tends to be muscle and glycogen in your internal sources. That's not great. And so we want to consistently fuel your muscles and your lean tissue. Perpetually anabolic is a term that I made up yesterday. But you want to be perpetually anabolic, meaning always rebuilding your lean tissue, your muscle, your organs, your connective tissue. You want to have meals, and I'm not saying you want 7 small snacks, because I know sometimes that's what people take that to mean. You still need meals. They're more anabolic than snacks. But your snacks are there to support your metabolism. Very good. And I call them protein plus snacks. And that protein, the thing that's plus the protein, is really dictated by your activity level. So if you're just kind of bumming around, you're not doing too much, say, so weekend you're just studying or whatever, protein can be kind of the main source, like protein plus fruit or vegetable. If you're about to run, you're about to go for a training run, or you're about to go play a pickup game or something, have some protein with some starch, with some carbs. Right? So your pretzels, your crackers, your balls, those types of things. So protein plus snacks really are what's very flexible based on your activity level. So protein, we think about the 30-30-30 principle. You want about a third of your protein in the morning, a third in the afternoon, a third in the night. If you think about that, that is not intuitive with the way that we eat in our culture. A third of your protein before lunch. I know a lot of people are being advised not to eat breakfast. I would not advise for that. A third of our protein, a third of our energy before lunch. That drives our metabolism up. It gives us a big energy source to burn throughout the day, so we have energy on demand for the day. So our muscles are not are not operating in the red, so they're not deficient. We want protein snacks, perpetually anabolic means we need a little burst of amino acid, a little burst of protein from our food source to keep our body rebuilding. That's why we have protein plus snacks. And then whenever we exercise, and this is very strenuous exercise, and 20 grams was for a 150-pound athlete, is what the research is. And you can flex based up and down based on that. But
when should you eat breakfast? Like, how
as
much
soon as you
after?
can.
But I don't get hungry right after I eat, so my breakfast ends up being my lunch, and it's an hour and a half after I wake up.
So I hear a lot that, Clint, I'm not a breakfast eater, and I ask, do you eat breakfast? And they say no, and then I say, you're not a breakfast eater because you don't eat breakfast. So quite often, it's your body's adaptation to its experience. And our body down-regulates digestion when we're not accustomed to getting food. And so I don't doubt that you're not hungry in the morning. And there's always a continuum of how people respond to food and to nutrition and to different meals. But by training your body to be receptive to food early, by having liquid nutrition options, as well as cold nutrition options when you're not hungry. That could be for breakfast, that could be for any time. Even snacks to help train your body to be tolerant of food at that time can be really helpful. So absolutely don't go have the biggest breakfast ever and then try to eat lunch an hour later. I'm not saying that. But start building things in as soon as you can when you wake up. Have a glass of milk, or have a protein shake, or have a breakfast shake or something along those lines, or a yogurt. Cold and liquid are good ways to get energy and to get food when you're not necessarily hungry. So here's a good case study of question.
What if you work out in the morning?
That's a great question.
Because you can't really eat a lot.
You can't eat a lot, but you can push a snack before your training. There's a concept of fasted training that some of you may have heard of. And there's some support that helps mobilize body fat. But if you're trying to do something that's really intense or you're trying to learn a new skill, it actually undermines your physiological or your mental psychological adaptations. So if you're just doing something at a pretty low clip, then it's okay maybe not to, but I still almost always advise try to get a ball, try to get a handful of dry cereal, or try to get something in, low fiber, moderately processed so it's easier to digest. Goldfish is a classic example of pretzels that are good pre-workout. So if we take a look at, we're going to look at contrast a good balanced fueling day versus an imbalanced day. Red indicates intake, and blue indicates intake, and red indicates expenditure. And this is our imbalanced day. Well, the calories are not imbalanced because they're pretty much the same. They're like, I think 3 calories one way or the other, nothing. But if we look at, I'll orient you, remember blue is intake, that's food, red is expenditure. This is 1 a.m. and this is midnight. So this is a student athlete. They wake up, they have like an easy practice in the morning, probably doing some technique or some skill work. Then they go, have their big practice in the afternoon. What do you notice about this fueling pattern? Yeah. Well, they're eating exactly as much as they're expending. How well are they doing at having the 3 balanced meals? Not so great. They didn't eat when they woke up, unless they were sleeping during that practice. But they did nothing pre-post for that practice. They had no recovery snack in this one. They didn't book in their workouts, is what I like to talk about. And they ended up having, a pretty big lunch, a huge dinner, and then a bunch of snacking at night. And there's a difference between snacking, which is kind of like eating from the bag, and a little bit more compulsive, and that tends to happen at night when you're studying, especially when you're fueled all day, versus having snacks, which are planned, which are part of your healthy balanced diet. If we look at the trend lines, this tells us what the metabolism is doing. The metabolism, they're eating far less than they're burning, which means if they do this for a day or two, or even a couple weeks, their body's still gonna be pretty resilient, but over time, the body metabolism slows down, and they end up burning protein all day. And when you eat more than you burn, especially if you've been decreasing metabolism, you don't make that up. You end up storing fat and burning muscle. That's not a really awesome combination. This is our balance day. Again, pretty well in balance in terms of total calories. But look at this difference. Pre-post lunch. Pre-post. You even notice here there's a little bump before dinner. Looks like they got some chocolate milk. That's good. All right, so pre-post. You want to, you notice how jagged that is? They're eating very regularly. And by eating about a third of their calories before lunch, about a third there, and certainly this is a little bit higher, but they got their recovery snack, that bumps it up, etc. If we look at what they're doing to their metabolism, they have just a slight surplus all day. Energy on demand. That's exactly what we're looking to do. And this is, similarly for just your kind of classic work day, classic school day. This is a very effective way, right? So you're walking to classes, you're walking up the slope, or you're walking around, just back to the dorm or to your house, and you really want to be balancing. And that's a planned snack, even at night. You want to fuel every 3 hours, even if it's after 8 o'clock, whatever time you feel. It's always okay to eat if you're up and running in 3 hours. Yep.
Does that mean, does the little bump mean you're burning